The two Brians and Alex are still here. Brian Rowan, I'm going to start with you because you can give us a flavour of what has been in this draft document. So let's start first with flags.
Well, it's a work in progress, but my understanding is that on the Union flag, for instance, and Belfast City Council in particular, there is no advance on designated days. Haass is suggesting that the Union flag could fly on other councils on designated days as well. But as I understand it, and this is how it's being interpreted, there would be an opt-out in council areas, for instance, where there's a nationalist majority, if that was so decided. And there's a bit of confusion about those council areas that fly the flag on 365 days of the year. Would they still be able to fly it on that number of days with the proposals that are in this document? But I think controversially, most controversially, Haass has also identified days when he thinks it would be appropriate to fly the tricolour.
And is that what would have angered the DUP today?
That would have been high on the list of the things that angered them. And what he's talking about there are things like Irish state and government visits. As one unionist said to me tonight, Enda Kenny is up and down here like a yo-yo. And he was asking how many times then would the tricolour be on Parliament building. So stalemate, I would say, on flags.
Well, let's hear what Alex Kane and Brian Feeney have to say about that. Alex Kane, to you first. The unionist community wouldn't countenance the flying of the tricolour, or would they?
I don't think they would, and I think that the problem for both the UUP and the DUP, they can't be seen to give any ground at all on the flying of the Union flag. The designated days was a big blow for them in Belfast. They cannot be seen, particularly with the new council areas coming in 6 months' time. We go down to be 11 councils. It's possible, you might in a very short time have a majority of those which are nationalist, so they cannot give any ground on that at all. And the trouble is, bringing in the tricolour, they can't agree on flying the flag of this country, let alone bringing in the flag of another country. It just strikes me as yet again it's another convoluted piece of tosh to try and just make it very difficult for anyone to reach any decision.
Brian Feeney, you'll not be surprised that this has caused the ructions that it has.
No, I mean, it's clear we're going nowhere on flags. There's no doubt about it. And I think one of the bottom line, and this will apply to all the other issues, is there are two big elections next May, the European election and the elections to the new councils. And what Haass is asking people to do is to go into these elections supporting radical proposals. And these will require legislation. And the parties are not going to do it. They are not going to go in saying, we have agreed to a deal which will have the tricolour flying over Stormont.
Right. Well, let's move on now and see what is the proposal as far as the parades are concerned. Brian.
Well, we know that unionists, and they've made this very clear, they want rid of the Parades Commission. We understand that there is a three-tier framework being built around dialogue and mediation, adjudication and appeals. And I'm told to look out for something that might be called the Public Events Facilitation Office and the Public Events Authority. The Public Events Authority being a 7-member adjudication body. Also look to responsibility coming away from the NIO to the Department of Justice, and in terms of appointments, some independent process to deal with that. So a new 3-tier framework around that public events facilitation and public events adjudication authority.
How's that likely to go down in the nationalist community, Brian?
Well, in this respect, Sinn Féin look as if they've got the appeal system which they were asking for. It also means that there's another organisation, and you call it all these acronyms if you like, but it's really going to be called not the Parades Commission, but it is going to be a Parades Commission.
And Alex Kane, will unionists, do you believe, buy into it?
It's not even about unionists buying into it. I think it's a form of madness. They can't get agreement on one tier, one parade commission. So the solution is, let's have 3 tiers. Let's make it a huge 3-ring circus where they can that circus can spend its whole time fighting each other without even adjudicating on any other issues outside their jurisdiction. It is absolute madness.
Every adjudication will be appealed.
By everybody.
On any contentious march, they'll all be appealed right the way up the top.
We've dealt with flags, we've dealt with parades. The past is next. Brian.
It breaks down into a number of areas. So the idea is, as I understand it, for one investigations unit that would pull together the historical inquiries team, the police ombudsman element that deals with legacy cases. And interestingly also, I think the idea is to try to pull the coroner's court business under that investigation umbrella as well. Some questioning about whether that is achievable. Then I'm told there will be a body called ICRI, an independent information recovery, or an independent commission for the recovery of information.
ICRI.
ICRI, as I understand it. And that's the body that would have limited immunity for witnesses coming forward. So that's
by immunity, you mean?
That the information they would provide to the body, they couldn't, it would protect them from self-incrimination. Although, as I understand it, prosecution could still be achieved by other means.
Is this an amnesty by another name?
Some people will look at it that way, and amnesty is such a poisonous word. It's not a word that people are going to use out there. But
there's a reference to the maze as well, very briefly, because I want to get comments from the other brand.
There was a big chunk of the maze in the document at the weekend, and all of a sudden it has disappeared from the document today. But there is still a reference in the document to some type of museum, and there is still unionist suspicion about where that museum might be.
Well, let's get comments now from Alex Kane, first of all.
Well, it's like the other two issues. It just seems to me, I mean, we're creating three new bodies to deal with the past as well. Maybe a museum, maybe not a museum, maybe amnesty, immunity. We're not sure how that's going to be called. I think what we're seeing, it's a mixture of humbug, it's a mixture of fudge. And all Haass wants to do at the end of this week, he wants to leave enough. It's like the Quality Street tin approach to this. He wants to leave enough goodies for each party to be able to say, we've got something. It's constructive ambiguity at the worst. It'll resolve absolutely nothing.
Are there any goodies there for the parties to take, Brian Feeney?
Well, there are, obviously. I mean, the bits have been chosen that please both sides, you know, that the reconciliation centre's gone and so on, but Sinn Féin will not accept that business on immunity because there's still a possibility of civil action being taken against people. Other people will not accept immunity at all. It is enormously complex, and there are legal implications about the coroner's court which I don't think will work. So I think so far it isn't Quality Street, it's Dolly Mixtures.
Brian Rowan, are we going to get a deal before Christmas?
Well, Haass wants a deal before Christmas.
But after what we've heard tonight...
Of course, look, you're dealing with three huge issues here. You're not going to get a five-party agreement on all three issues. And what might happen at the end of this process is Haass might have to produce a document which is his best guess for a way forward.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. If you'd like to comment on this issue or any other story that we're covering tonight, you can log on to our website, u.tv, and let us know what you think.